Obviously, it's Aaron Rodgers facing the Packers for the first time since leaving them for the Jets a few years ago. Rodgers has never faced his former team, and when you compare Packers quarterback Jordan Love and Rodgers' numbers since he left Green Bay, they are surprisingly similar, pretty much across the board. Only major difference, obviously, that's in the win column. We have Love 12 more wins as a starter when Rodgers missed all of that first Jets season back in 2023. All right, what does Rodgers need to watch out for when he plays this Packers defense, Dan?
Yeah, holding the ball past 2.5 seconds. He's the third fastest quarterback in the NFL when getting rid of the football, right around 2.6 seconds. I think he's going to have to be faster than that this week. I mean, if you just watch Micah and how quickly he either puts pressure on the quarterback or gets to him, it's going to happen quicker than Aaron's been getting rid of the football. 2.3 seconds, and you got to move off the spot by himself once again. I mean, this is going to be less than that. Right now, play's over, dead. That's the second and a half. And the problem is you as an offense, if you start to trade and pay too much attention to Micah Parsons and you go double team him, we want a left guard and left tackle. Well, then it creates all those one-on-ones opposite. And then players like their internal rush guys or Rashawn Gary can get home. So the challenge for Aaron Rodgers and this Steelers offense is going to be when they pass the football from the pocket, it has to get out of the quarterback's hands in less than 2.5 seconds, or that number one edge player is going to be creating all kinds of problems for their offense.
So my note for the Packers defense was make him hold the ball longer than 2.5 seconds, Dan. Because that has actually been a weakness of theirs, right? On throws of 2.5 seconds or less, they're 25th in EPA per play. You really saw that on display versus Dallas. They were able to mitigate that pass rush in Micah Parsons to some degree by Dak just releasing the ball lightning fast. And to that end, something I would really advocate that Green Bay do in this game, challenge Pittsburgh at the line of scrimmage. I thought the Steelers' worst performance of the year was against Seattle. Going back and looking at that game, Seattle pressed them 30% of the time, which is way more than they normally do, but they understood. We've got to make Aaron Rodgers hold on to the football. We have to take away those quick access throws. Green Bay normally does not play press. I would really consider doing so in this game more because otherwise you risk death by 1,000 paper cuts the same way you did against Dallas.
Okay, can we talk about that Steelers defense for a sec? Swaggo embarrassed by the Bengals last weekend. What do you need to see from them against Green Bay on Sunday night?
Get your butt down.
Well, one, I think it's one of the most disappointing units in football this year because we thought this team was competent quarterback play away from actually having a chance to make a deep playoff run. This was what was eye-popping for me last week. Chase Brown almost averaged 10 yards a carry against this defense. And I know we got enamored with Joe Flacco. He played a phenomenal game. The amount of throws that he was able to make to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, obviously seeing them make explosive plays. But up front is not somewhere where you think the Pittsburgh Steelers gives up this type of yardage in the run game. Cincinnati couldn't run on Kenilworth Middle School. That's my middle school I went to before they played against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
If you were there,
this game. And now that confidence came back and they were able to go downfield. Josh Jacobs got going a little bit late in that Arizona game with some physical runs. At the end of that game, he became a bludgeoning guy. I think you got to test it. When you see almost 10 yards a carry given up, you have to have that be a part of what Green Bay offensive game plan needs to be until they tell you they got it fixed.
Big fella, let me ask you a question. So, there's two kinds of defensive lines for people at home, essentially. There's that penetrating defensive line, like get upfield, or there's kind of that two-gapper, right? Like you read. Yep. The Steelers are a little bit more of a reading defensive line, but what I see on tape in the run game, fella, is they're so upright doing it. So can you talk to us about the challenge of having to be that two-gap reading defensive lineman, but also trying to stay low and win the leverage game? Is that something that can happen at the same time? Because they're not doing that well.
Yeah, Dio, it can happen at the same time. It's you've heard me say this before. Change the line of scrimmage. On your initial burst, you need to be trying to knock offensive linemen back. First of all, that's the key to any defense. Even if you're in a 3-4, standing up looking at the line of scrimmage doesn't help you. You got to get those guys' feet moving backward in order to give the running back less time to make decisions and cuts. If you go back to that package that we showed with Chase Brown, he had a lot of time to survey at the line of scrimmage and stick his feet in the ground because the line of scrimmage wasn't being dented. You want to offset. And then the other thing, too, is when you have attacking defensive fronts, your linebackers are really catch-all guys. They have to respond to however those guys are playing blocks. Sometimes between Queen and these linebackers, they are confused about where to insert. because guys aren't being disciplined in where they're standing their gaps, and that gives up and leads to big runs as well. They need to become a little bit more disciplined up front. I think they have the guys to do it and the veterans to do it. And sometimes when you're not stopping the run, you get greedy and you start pressing, trying to make plays for tackles for losses instead of just reacting and playing blocks and getting people on the ground to make them go the long, hard way. I hope that they get this fixed with the veterans that we know on that defensive line. But the way this league goes, you will be tested when you give up almost 10 a carry on the ground.
Yeah, I think this Packers run game with all the motion is just going to give that second level of the Steelers defense a lot of problems. As far as the passing game goes, to put it bluntly, just don't throw at Joey Porter Jr., man. I like everyone else, has really struggled in coverage on this team. And the Packers, of course, have what we call a democratic offense. You can pick any different player any day of the week. Tucker Kraft has been the focal point. I think he could continue to be in this game, but I think they have so many advantages on that side of the ball as long as Jordan Love doesn't turn it over, which he has largely avoided this season.